Hey gang, your buddy Platt back with another Spirit Series video. Today we're building on what we talked about last week. Last week was Blanco tequilas. Today we're going to talk about Reposado tequilas. Reposado, the term means rest it. We're resting the tequila in wood. Actually, technically, we take tequila off the still and it is put into, it is aged for anywhere between 2 months and 1 year in oak barrels of any size. I believe it was Canadian whiskeys where they had different size barrels for aging or something like that. But any size oak barrels. The two major type of oaks they use are American white oak and French oak. The most popular barrels for tequila are generally used American bourbon barrels. Even though it's technically not a bourbon, Jack Daniel barrels are used a lot. I believe Herradura use Jack barrels. We've basically touched on it a little bit last week with Blancos, the unaged Blancos, that the aging process kind of tames down tequilas, kind of smooth them out a little bit. Some people think that's bad, that the unaged Blancos were the truest form. Reposados here, because of a little bit of aging, they're a little bit softer, a little bit smoother, and that's why some people think that actually Reposados are the best tequila for use in cocktails. If you think about it, it makes a little bit of sense. With most spirits, when you age the spirit longer, older scotches, older bourbons, older rums, you don't want to use in cocktails because that aging process adds so much flavor, and it's that flavor that's really desired of the length of time in that wood, that you don't want cocktail mixers, juices, syrups to mask that. Because we talked about tequila being a little different in that the unaged version, unlike rum, and unaged rum, works better with cocktails. Or, we talked about how, the closer to a vodka, a clear spirit, is better for cocktails. Not necessarily with tequila, because the unaged version, the Blanco, is probably the truest form of tequila, or what a lot of people think is, and it has those bold flavors, and it's closer to that agave, so you don't want to mask that in a cocktail either. Reposado is kind of a nice point in between. We softened it out a little, but we still get that agave flavor, and it just is the preferred tequila for cocktails, like, of course, the classic margarita. Just to recap, Reposados spend 2 months up to a year in oak barrels of any size. That's the definition. I want to spend the rest of the video talking about a concept, or not a concept, but something called NOM, Norma Oficial Mexicano. What it is it kind of stands for the standards that a spirit must meet to be called tequila, to be labeled tequila. You will see the NOM on bottles of tequila, and that lets you know, hey, what's inside is the real deal. This meets the standards of what should be called a tequila. Along with the letters NOM, you will see a 4-digit number, and that is the number of the distillery that produces that spirit. And what's nice about that is that gives us more information, which comes in handy. Example I'll use on why this may or may not be important. If you walked into a liquor store 40, 50 years ago, and you went to your American whiskey aisle or bourbon aisle, you would see a nice variety of different bourbons, wherever, Jim Beam and W.L. Weller's and Wild Turkey, and then you would get into Old Granddad, but then you would see like Big Bob's or other brands, and you would presume they're from all these different distilleries. But if you get to reading the back of the bottle, you notice a lot of stuff came from Claremont, Kentucky, or Louisville, Kentucky. And that's because back then there was really only 7, maybe 8 major distilleries in the U.S. And a lot of product, a lot of different brands were coming from a singular distillery. Now, if you read the back of the bottle, you might have seen something bottled by Big Bob's Bourbon, Claremont, Kentucky, and then you might have seen Jim Beam from Claremont, Kentucky.
or Kentucky Deluxe from Claremont, Kentucky, but you didn't really know. Well, you just thought, well, there's just a lot of distilleries in Claremont, but there wasn't. That distillery was doing work, but you really just didn't have the information. Well, that's not true with tequilas. Because of that number, you can go, and let's say somebody tells you, hey, this is the hip hop new tequila. What's his name has in it, it's the coolest thing. You can look on the bottle, and find that number, and go to a website called tequila.net. I think you can also just Google it too, but tequila.net, put in that 4-digit number, and it lets you know all the different tequilas that distillery makes. A good example, and why this is important, is because today there's roughly a little over 110 distilleries in Mexico that can make a product that can be called and labeled tequila. But there's well over 1,500 brands. So there's kind of a convoluted scene out there. And again, just to give you a little more information. So like I said, you take that number, put it into tequila.net and find out what, where your tequila came from. It wasn't, a celebrity running a still. It came from somewhere, and that lets you know where it came from, what else they make. And a good example of this is NOM number 1119. They are the people that produce El Jimador, the tequila we tried last time. But they also produce Herradura and their complete line, Blanco, Reposado, Añejo, etc. They also produce a tequila called Don Eduardo. So again, several varieties of tequila coming out of that one distillery. Now this is not a knock saying that the tequila is not a quality or that's deceptive. It just gives you more information. Again, kind of going back to my example of celebrity tequilas. That's kind of the hot thing right now. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because in some of the advertisement for some of these tequilas, you're seeing a lot of a man walking in the field, agave field, talking to the locals and, holding up a snifter tequila or whatever, and that you think, well, he's built this distillery and he's got this plantation, he's put all this time and effort and he's a real tequila expert. He's most likely just buying excess capacity at a distillery. Not to pick on the guy too much, but our buddy George Clooney is probably an example of this. The NOM for his Casamigo tequila is 1416. Besides making Casamigo, that same distillery makes Avion and Clase Azul. Now again, this is not a slam on quality. Actually, all three of those products are really decent tequilas. It's just that distillery's probably been doing business for a while, and they weren't using the still on Thursday, so all right, George, we'll make you a tequila. And that's not to say also that they're the same tequilas. That's not true at all. George may like a little extra wood notes, vanilla in his tequila, so he may age his Reposados 10 months. The people at Avion may like something a little more bold, something with a truer agave flavor. They only may age their Reposado 3 months. And then the folks at Clase Azul may say, let's use French oak. So they are different tequilas, but they're coming from the same distillery, and there's a real good chance they're sourcing the same agave. So they're different, but they're not. And a lot of times the difference in that price is, well, a fancy bottle or a big celebrity name behind it. So I just wanted to kind of bring that up. Time to try tequila. We're going to try today Cazadores Reposado Tequila, 80 proof, 40% alcohol by volume. The NOM on this particular tequila is 1487. This distillery, besides making Cazadores, also makes Corzo and Camino Real. Now, all three of these fall under the Bacardi family line. So, and that's something you would see in distilleries. Sometimes a big beverage conglomerate may go and start a distillery or a plantation and then do several different tequila brands, but it all falls under their umbrella. I believe El Jimador and Herradura are under the same corporate umbrella. So that distillery does a lot of work with that one conglomerate. Like I said, this one, all three of these fall underneath it. So Bacardi may produce several lines and then say, all right, well, Cazadores is the tequila we're going to push into
chain restaurants like your Applebee's, Chili's, whatever. They may say, Corzo, all right, we're going to go into like higher end casinos and your Marriott, a Hyatt, nicer little hotel. And then they may take the Camino Real line, and I don't know, maybe it's value, mid-level tequila, whatever, market they want to target with that. So, again, not saying they're the same thing, but we know now that they're produced in the same distillery. So with that being said, let's give her a try. All right, a little mellower nose. All right, the agave flavor's there. It's a little softer. This one still has a little bit of bite to it, but not as aggressive. Easy drinking, not too harsh, but I get plenty of the agave. I get a nice little sweet punch toward the front. I want to say I get a little bit of caramel. I don't pick up any of the vanilla. Now, in these, when you were dealing with 100% agave, there's no caramel added to it, so that caramel is coming from the wood. It's not coming from an addition. Nice tequila, smooth enough. Like I said, it mellowed out from the Blanco a little bit. Kind of simple though. I'm not getting a lot of complexity, but I picked up a little caramel from the wood. So overall, okay. Nothing great. Well, I hope you liked this video. If you did, please subscribe down below. Also, please like the video because it lets YouTube know we're putting out good content. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave me in the comment section, or you can always contact me on the Twitter page. Till next time, bottoms up.